Hi everyone, this is Anne-Marie from HandmadeJewelry. Thank you so much for joining me for another beading tutorial today. I hope that you guys are doing well. And for those of you who don't know me, I have an Etsy shop where I sell handmade surf and beach inspired jewelry. The name of my shop is Alma Surfside. And I also have an Instagram account, which is Alma Surfside 7. So be sure to check out the links in the description box down below. And for today's beading project, we're going to be working on a square shaped necklace. And so this is what it looks like, and I've used two different colors throughout the necklace. So I've used sort of a seafoam turquoise color, as well as white, and then silver around each square shape. Okay, so this is the project that we'll be going over for today. If you wanted to do a bracelet instead of a necklace, you could absolutely do that with this pattern. Okay. So in terms of beading supplies, what you'll need for this project is Fireline, and I always use crystal, and the size is 6 pound or 0.006. Okay. In the first pile that you see there on my mat on the far left hand side are Toho seed beads, and all of the seed beads that I'm going to be mentioning are from the Toho collection. Okay. So these are 11/0s in galvanized silver. In the second pile there on my mat are 11/0s in Lagoon, and the finish on these is opaque luster. Okay, so that's what they look like. And in the third pile there on my mat are more Tohos in 11/0, and these are opaque white. Okay, and in the very last pile there on my mat on the far right hand side are 15/0s, and these are in galvanized silver. Okay, so you only need two different sizes of seed beads. The 11/0s you'll need 3 different colors, and the 15/0s you only need 1 color. So it's a nice project in terms of, you know, using up the supplies that you probably already have on hand. And it's also good to have a lobster claw for the closure. And this one here is stainless steel. The reason why I've chosen this color is because I've used silver in the body of the necklace. Okay, and you'll also need 2 jump rings, and these are stainless steel as well. Okay, in terms of tools, you'll need scissors to be able to cut your thread as you're doing your necklace. And you'll also need flat nose pliers in order to work with the jump rings at the very end of the project. Okay. So go ahead and gather all of your materials and let's get started. Okay, so before we get started, I just wanted to point out the color scheme that I've used here. So if we take this square shape here, I've used white for most of it, and then I've chosen the different color, which is turquoise, just for the top and bottom of this shape. Okay, and then again in the next segment, I've used turquoise throughout most of it, and then just white there at the top and bottom of that segment. Okay, just to give you an idea of how we'll be using the colors. So I've gone ahead and I've attached my beading needle to my Fireline. Okay, and you always want to cut off about an arm's length worth of thread, just so that you're comfortable working with the length. And I'm going to start off the first segment by picking up a total of 4 seed beads in 11/0 in white. There we go, so 4 seed beads there on my needle. And I'm going to push those down on my thread. And I'm going to leave myself, you know, about a 6 to 10 inch tail, just so that I can finish off the piece at the very end. And I'm going to insert my needle through the very first seed bead, okay, and pull on my thread. Okay, so that's the shape that you want to have at this point. And then we're going to go around the shape with our needle, and we're going to fill in the gaps with different beads. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up one of my turquoise beads in 11/0, and I'm going to go through the very next bead like that. Okay, there's another empty gap, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up a 15/0 in galvanized silver and go through the next bead. Okay, just working my way around the shape, filling in the gaps. On this side, I'm going to include another 11/0 in turquoise. and go through the next bead. And in the last empty gap, I'm going to pick up a 50No in silver and go down the next bead. There we go. Okay, so that's what you want to have at this point. My working thread is coming out right here. And I'm going to go through the turquoise bead that's sitting there at the top of my shape. And I'm going to pick up 3 50Nos in silver. There we go. And I'm going to go through the opposite side of the bead that I'm exiting. Right there. Okay, so that just creates like a little topper with 3 small beads at the very top of my shape. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side of my shape. Okay, so I'm going to go around on the right hand side. Until I get back to the top. Okay, now that I'm at the other side, I'm going to do the exact same thing by picking up 3 of my 50Nos in silver. There we go. And I'm going to go through the opposite side of the bead that I'm exiting. Okay, so now that I've completed that step, I'm going to pick up 1 50No in silver. Okay, and then I'm going to get an 11No in white and another 50No in silver. Okay, so 3 beads there on your needle. And you're going to skip the white bead, which is sitting right there, and you're going to insert your needle into the silver bead, the little 50No that's on the side of your shape. Okay, and pull on your needle. There we go. So that's what your shape should look like so far. And we're going to do the same thing all around our shape. Okay, so again, I'm going to pick up a 50No in silver, an 11No in white, and another 50No in silver. Okay, and then I'm going to insert my needle into the turquoise bead right there, sitting at the top of my shape. Okay, repeat the same thing. So grab a 15 in silver, an 11No in white, and another 50No in silver. And go through the bead that's jutting out there on the outside of your shape, which should be the 50No in silver, right there. And pull on your thread. Okay, so you can see how the square shape is coming together. And we're going to do the same thing for the last empty gap. So pick up the 15, the 11No, and the other 15, and go through the turquoise bead. Right there. Okay, so we've basically completed the first segment, but you'll notice that there are 3 beads there at the top of your shape and 3 beads there at the bottom of your shape, and then there are 2 beads right below each set. Okay, so 2 on the inside here, 2 on the inside on the other side. So what we want to do is go around the shape one last time and make sure that all of those beads are connected. Okay, so the ones at the top should go down through the ones sitting right below. Okay, so let me show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm exiting the turquoise bead there on the left hand side of it. And what I'm going to do is insert my needle into the bead directly above it, the 50No. Pull on my thread. Okay, so now I'm in the top part of my shape with the 3 beads there sitting at the top. So now I'm going to go down the next few beads. So the one there at the top and the next 2 50-0s. Just working my needle down the outside of the shape. Turning my shape as I'm working my needle around. Going through the 11-0 as well as the very next 15-0. And what I want to make sure is that I'm going through all of the beads here so that they're all connected. Okay, so all of the 15-0s must be attached, right? And that's just going to strengthen your project, okay? Strengthen each segment. And again, going on the outside through the 11-0 and working my needle back to the top. Okay, and now that I'm getting back to the top of my shape, I'm going to go through the very first 3 50-0s that are sitting right there. So I've gone through 2, and the third one is right there at the top. So that's the little peak that you see. And pull tight on your thread. Okay, so that's the shape that you want to be working with throughout your necklace. And you should have 2 beads there on one side. You should be exiting the one in the center, and then you should have 2 more silver beads on the other side. Okay, just to give you an idea of where you should be exiting right now. Okay, and then to create the connector, it's going to be pretty simple. We're just going to pick up an 11-0, a 15-0, and another 11-0. Okay, 3 beads there on your needle, and you're going to go through the opposite side of the bead that you're exiting. Okay, right there. Okay, so that's the connector we're going to be using. And to reinforce that connector, go through all of the beads that you just added on. And step up through the bead there on the right, and then the bead there in the center. There we go. Okay, so that's your piece so far, and now we're ready to create the second segment. And this time I'm going to be using white at the top and bottom of my shape, and then turquoise throughout the rest of the shape. Okay, so to get started, pick up a 15-0 in silver, an 11-0 in white, and another 15-0 in silver. Okay, and go through the opposite side of the bead that you're exiting. Okay, and then you can go through the bead there on the left and go through the 11-0 in the center. Okay, so that's setting us up for the next segment. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and pick up 4 beads in my turquoise color, or lagoon, and these are 11-0s. Okay, and you can go through the opposite side of the bead that you're exiting and pull. Okay, go through the very next 11-0, and you're going to pick up a 15-0, and you're going to go through the next 11-0. Okay, go ahead and get one of your 11-0s in white and go down the very next bead. And now on the other side, we're going to attach a 15-0 in silver and and go down the next bead. Okay, so that's what we're looking at right now. Okay, for the second segment, you want to have 4 turquoise beads on the inside and 1 white bead at the top and the bottom. Okay, so that's going to set up our square design. You can go through the white bead okay, and now I want you to pick up 1 15-0 in silver, 1 11-0 in turquoise, and another 15-0 in silver. Okay, so we're just going to do the outside of the shape right now. So go through the silver bead there on the far right and pull on your thread. Okay, we'll do the same thing again. So pick up a 15, an 11, and a 15, and go through the white bead sitting there at the top of your shape. Now that we've come to the top of our shape, we can insert the 3 small silver beads that go there at the top. So go ahead and pick up 3 15s. And go through the opposite side of the bead that you're exiting, so the white one. And pull on your thread. Okay, so that's what you need to have. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So go ahead and get a 15 in silver, an 11-0 in turquoise, and another 15-0 in silver, and go through the silver bead there on the outside of your shape, this one here. Okay, so we're almost done. We just have one more gap to fill in. So again, we're going to pick up a silver and 15, a turquoise, and another 15. Okay, and you can go through the white bead that's sitting right there at the top of your shape and pull on your thread. Okay, so our second segment is done, but we have one more step to do before we move on to the next one, which is to go around the outside of your shape and ensuring that all of the small 15-0s are connected at the top and the bottom. Okay. Okay, so now I'm just going to step up here into the bead right above. Okay, and then I'm going to go around my shape and make sure that all of those beads are attached. So I'm going through the next 15-0, and I'm going to go around the outside, making sure that the 15s are attached. Okay, so now that all of the beads have been attached, we need to work our needle around the left-hand side and back to the top of our shape. Okay, so I'm not going to do that on camera. I'm going to skip forward, and I'll meet you back here when you reach this point here. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, so we finished our second segment, and I'm going to go through this pattern one last time, okay, doing a third segment. And then at the very end, I'll show you how to do your closure, okay? So we're ready for our next connector at this point. So to do that, I'm going to pick up one of my 11 O's in silver, one of my 15 O's in silver, and another 11 O. Okay, so 3 beads there on your needle, and you're going to go through the opposite side of the bead that you're exiting. Okay, to reinforce it, you can go through all of those beads that you just added on. Okay, that just makes it a little bit stronger. And back up through the bead there on the right, and then the bead there in the center. Okay, and now to start our next segment, we're going to go ahead and pick up a 15. And we're going to pick up one of our turquoise beads and another 15. Okay, go through the opposite side of the bead that you're exiting and pull on your thread. Now you can go up through the bead there on the left, the little 15, and go through your 11 O there in the center. Okay, so that's where you want to be right now, coming out of the right hand side of that bead. And we're going to go ahead and pick up a total of 4 white beads and 11 O. There we go. And go through the opposite side of the bead that you're exiting. Go through the white bead there on the right, the very next bead. And now we're going to start filling in the gaps around our shape, right? So we're going to pick up our 15. We're going to go through the very next bead. And we need a turquoise bead to fill in that gap there at the top. Okay, so your 11 O. Go down the next bead. One more empty gap, which means we need another 15. And go down the next 2 beads. Pull tight on your thread. Okay, so that's the shape that you want to be starting off with. Now we're going to go around and fill the empty gaps with our 15, our 11 O in white, and another 15, and go through the silver bead there on the right hand side that's jutting out. Pull on your thread. Okay, so again we're going to do this all the way around our shape. 15, 11, 15. Go through the turquoise bead that's jutting out there at the top. Okay, now that we're at the top of our shape, we can go ahead and grab 3 more 15s. There we go. And we can go through the opposite side of the bead that we're exiting, so the turquoise one, and pull on our thread. So that just creates the little topper there. Okay, and then we're going to continue on the other side of our shape by picking up a 15, an 11 in white, and another 15. There we go. And we're going to go into the silver bead there that's jutting out on the side of our shape and pull on our thread. Okay, now we have one more empty gap. So again, I'm going to pick up a 15, an 11 in white, and another 15. There we go. Okay, and you can go through the turquoise bead there sitting at the top of your shape. There we go. Okay, so the last step, if you remember from before, is just to contour the outside of your shape, ensuring that all of the small 15s are attached, right? So I can step up here by going through this bead right above it and going through the next bead beside it And again, I'm going to work my needle around the outside of the shape, ensuring that all of the little beads are connected. Okay, so again, just working my needle around the outside as quickly as I can, and just reinforcing the outside of this square shape. Okay, so I've been able to connect all of the outside beads, and then all I need to do in order to reach the point where I'll create the next connector is just to carry on the left hand side of my square until I reach this peak here at the top, and then I'll be ready to start another connector. Okay, so we're going to stop there. I don't think you need to see me, carrying on through the through each of the beads on the outside there of the shape, but that's the idea that you're going to be working with today. Okay, and if you need to review any of the steps, you can just go back in the video and do that. Once you get the hang of it, it's not very complicated. It's just, a matter of alternating the colors that are at the top and the bottom of each shape. So you want to keep that in mind as you're working. If you've decided to use 2 colors, of course you don't have to. You could just use 1 color, but I thought it was more dynamic if I had, at least a couple of colors in each of the parts. Okay, so I hope that was easy enough to do. And what I'm going to do now is show you how to do the closure once you've reached the desired length of your piece. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, so once you've reached the right length of your bracelet or necklace, whatever it is that you've decided to make today, for the closure, you're going to want to make sure that you're exiting, the bead that we've been calling the peak of our shape. Okay, so it's the one in the middle. And you should have 2 50-0s on each side of that bead there at the top. Okay, and then you're going to pick up a total of 5 50-0s in silver. So 5 small seed beads there on my needle, and just go through the opposite side of the bead that you're exiting. There we go. Okay, and then to make it stronger, you can go through that circle, okay, by going through all the beads there that you just added on. Go all the way around the circle with your needle. Okay, and if you're not happy with how strong it is, you can go through that one more time. Okay. But in my case, I think it's good, so I'm just going to continue on through the next 2 50-0s directly below. And pull on my thread. There we go. And then I can tie off a knot right there by going on the inside of my shape and going through the loop. Okay, if you wanted to do another knot just to make sure that it's really secure, you can go through the 11-0. And again, go on the inside of your shape and create another knot there. Okay, make sure that's nice and snug. And then you can get your scissors and cut off, you know, the extra thread that you don't need anymore. Try to get as close as you can to your project and set that aside. You can grab your flat nose pliers and one of your silver stainless steel jump rings and go through the loop. Close up your jump ring. And for the other side, you can grab another jump ring as well as a lobster claw. Connect those two pieces together and go through the other loop. There we go. Okay, so that's your closure. That's what's going to hold your necklace or bracelet together. And you can open up the lobster claw and attach the jump ring. Okay, so that's what holds it together. So anyways, I hope that you really enjoyed making this square-shaped necklace or bracelet, whatever it is you decided to make today. And I really love the, you know, square shape of it. I think it's very classic, and I love the detailing at the top and bottom of each shape. I think that really makes it look elegant. So yeah, play around with the colors and see what you can come up with. I think it's a very easy piece to wear. You know, no matter what you have in your wardrobe, I think it'll go with a lot of different things. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me for today's tutorial. If you need any beading supplies, I'll attach links to Amazon in the description box. And anytime you decide to purchase through one of those links, I will make a small commission, just so you're aware. And other than that, I hope that you watch more of my videos. And if you haven't already done so, please take a minute to like, comment, and subscribe. I have quite a few beading tutorials posted now, so I'm sure you can find something of interest. And I'll see you in the next one. Okay, take care. Bye for now.